And we are live from Singapore to Southeast Asia. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on Dev Talk, a live stream all about technologies and AWS. Strictly no slides, just codes and demos. So, thank you, everyone, for joining me. And how's everyone doing? So, please let me know where you're from. It's always nice to see everyone from around the world to tune in into this live stream. Just drop them in the comment box below. Also, I've added a quick feature, right? A quick feature, a new one, and that is announcement sound. Here it goes. Let me play for it. Yay! Did you hear that? Well, if you did hear it, that's the sound if there's any questions coming in. So it will not interrupt our beloved guests and speaker while they're on fire sharing their knowledge, right? Okay, so um, okay, so I get feedback from few of you that if I can just cram down the sessions down to 30 minutes. So honestly, I always wanted to do this live stream within 30 minutes, but it never happened. So sorry about it. But I'm still hoping that everyone getting values from Dev Talk. So we have few people, right? So we have from Bagus Budi. Hello, coach. I'm no coach, but I'm a developer. So hello. Thank you for coming in, Bagus. And we also have Rohmat. Yay! Welcome. I believe that you like that sound, so I'm going to play it again. Welcome, Rohmat. Right. Okay. So and then I saw a couple of comments from AWS User Group Philippines, from John Bonso. Hey, John. Nice to have you here in this live stream as well. Right. Okay. So back to this episode. So in this episode, we're going to talk about security. We're going to talk about securing your application from authentication, authorization, down to RBAC or RBAC and FGA. So for those of you who are just getting started building your apps, this episode will definitely provide you with overview of what you need to know to build your user management and identity provider. And for those of you who already running your apps, you'll get a good grip of things that will even enhance your app security. And for that, we will discuss with our friend Jim on how to use Auth0. It's really exciting. And as this is a live stream, any questions related to the topic are most welcome, and we'd like to answer them. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comment box, and we, myself and guest speaker, will try our best to address them. And of course, at the end of the session, I will share a survey link to get your feedback. And as usual, the first 5 who completed the feedback will get $25 AWS credits that you can use to build stuff on AWS. And as mentioned, for this episode, we have a special guest. We have Jim Katsos. He is the Senior Manager of Solutions Engineering covering ANZ and Asia, working for Okta. So we're going to hear directly from the expert on security. So I'm going to let Jim in. Hello, Jim. Welcome to DevTalk.
Hi, Donny. Thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, really nice to have you here. Would you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Katsos. I work for a company called Okta and Solution Engineering. We're the technical people of the sort of sales department, working with customers, helping them understand what our technology does.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Again, thank you for being here and really appreciate your time. So as mentioned, today we're going to discuss all about security and how to do it with Auth0. Now, before we go straight to the codes, demos, and all of those geeky stuff, right? We have the first question that we receive from the form. So for the viewers, when I schedule the post for live stream, I usually put a link to Airtable form to get your questions in advance. And the most commonly asked question here is that what is the difference between authentication and authorization? Right. So this is a good question, in my opinion, to be honest. And this is a common question if you just get started with identity management. And this question also sets the foundation of security. And the way that I like to explain to answer this question is to for you to imagine if you're trying to go into your apartment or hotel room, you have this key card, right? And with the keycard, you can identify yourself. This is the authentication, right? And also with the keycard, you can go to your room level and go inside your room, but you cannot access any other rooms, and that is called authorization, right? Okay, Jim, did I explain it clearly?
Johnny?
What do you think
Yes.
about this?
Good enough. Good enough. Yeah, everyone confuses those two, but it's pretty simple. Authentication, verify who you are. Authorization, what access rights do you have? What can you do? That's how I do it. But that was a great example.
Okay, I'm really glad to hear that from the expert. So I'm going to use that kind of illustration from now on.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, it
okay.
works.
Okay, so Jim, we going to talk more about Okta and Auth0, and some of the viewers probably had no idea about Okta Auth0. And can you tell us some background of what is Okta, what is Auth0, and how do they relate?
Sure. Okta, we're an identity company. Like you mentioned, identity security is important, no doubt. Also, we're an identity user experience company because, after all, authentication, authorization is allowing humans to get access to the things that they need to do. Two different sort of personas, two different use cases. One is sort of what we call workforce identity.
Right.
Think about as an employee of AWS or an
Mm.
employee, you have to access many thousands of hundreds of applications potentially.
Yeah.
So that's workforce identity. That's really where Okta sort of fits. And then the other side of the picture, and we're going to talk about that mainly today, is customer identity.
Mm.
As all humans,
Yep.
we want to go online, access websites and applications. That's the customer identity. So that's where really Auth0 fits in. Hope that makes
Awesome.
sense. Yeah.
That totally makes sense, right? And okay, so the way I see it, like I mean, especially on Auth0, is that I've been using Auth0 even before I joined AWS, and really amazed on how the simplicity it brings for the developers to integrate with our apps. And I know that we can integrate our apps. We can integrate our mobile applications, right? Web application, or even IoT applications with Auth0. Now, so I just want to give a quick overview for our viewers who are developers, our beloved developers. Can you show us some demos on how that we can do
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah. It always starts with the application. You've got to create one. So let's talk about how you would integrate an
Yeah.
application with Auth0 to get that login experience and add some security after
Right.
that. So can you share my screen, Donnie? Sure.
Can.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I've got a little fictional website that we're going to play around with today. It's called Travel0. It's a fictional online travel booking application. We all love holidays, Donnie. So just imagine
Definitely.
booking your flight to go somewhere nice. But really, I'll take you straight to the Auth0 platform here. Auth0 is a multi-tenanted public cloud identity platform, SaaS. It runs on AWS.
Right.
And you can spin one up pretty quickly. We'll show you how in a moment or two. But you spin it up and you get a tenant, okay? The other key thing is this GUI here. Yeah, it's available, but we're all developers or probably on this call wanting to be learning about development. All this is configurable, and you can treat your tenant as code, put it into your DevOps pipelines, command line interface to do everything I'm going to do and show you. But the experience generally begins here, applications. Okay, I'm just going to create a brand new application. You can see here, as Donnie, you mentioned,
Yep.
you're going to have native applications, mobile, desktops, even smart TVs. SPA applications are incredibly popular now. React, Angular, etc. Regular traditional websites, 3-tier, Node.js, ASP, and machine to machine, securing APIs. All right, so all that sort of covered. Let's pick SPA, single page web app. I'm going to create brand new, crazy, great website now. And I'm going to go into here. And then you get a choice of all the languages. The developers, we have so much choice, blessed and cursed. So I'm going to choose React just to get into it. And here's how you get started. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You go and download a sample. You can view it on GitHub, clone that down, and just follow the instructions. So if I download this SDK, I've already done it. I've cloned it down to my GitHub. Here's my VS Code, and I can come in here and read the README, and I've got to just update 2-3 things, okay? And I'll grab those, essentially, from, step by step. It's all in here, right? Tells you how to do it, how to get there, and provides code snippets. Okay, so once you've done that, here's an example I created earlier, and I'll set up node here, npm run dev, and it starts my website. When I click this button, because I put that little bit of code in, a little bit of configuration, it goes off to Auth0, the SaaS platform, and delivers a logon experience. Simple as that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Up and running in literally 15 minutes.
Right. Okay.
Hope that all makes sense.
That totally makes sense. I do have a couple of questions,
Sure.
but I really just want to use this feature, the announcement, so I'm going to play it.
Yeah. Oh, question time.
Right. Jim, thank you so much for showing us the quick demo. So that means that with Auth0, it will automatically generate the codes for us. So we just need to plug in into our application, either that's a SPA or SPA or the web apps and other stuff.
Essentially, yeah. So if you want to just build a brand new web app or play around with it, grab the SDK from GitHub, like I've done here, or you just grab the little code snippets we provide. So when I go back into here, and if you go into here, these are all the configuration you're going to do step by step. I can't show everything today. When you go to the quick start, and I'll go back to React just for fun, and down here, further down, you'll get these little code snippets that you can just cut, paste, put them into the right place within your existing application.
I see. And another question that I've seen that more and more companies, they are trying to provide like a seamless integration when it comes to adopting their technologies into some sort of like a developer tools, like a CLI. And most of the time, like that kind of CLI tool, it requires the developers as the user to log in as well. Is that something that can be covered by Auth0 as well?
Yeah, well, it's all APIs in the end. So the command line interface, for example, of this bit of Auth0 essentially calls APIs, and you protect those APIs by assigning a username, password, or whatever you want to do, and protect that API, and also restrict the level of access rollback. We'll get into that later on.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool.
Good question.
All right, so that's a really cool demo. And for everyone, just a reminder, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below. And hopefully that you can use this episode wisely, as it's rare time we can have Jim, our expert in this domain. All right. Before we move on, just want to address a couple of questions that we have from our Airtable form. So, right. Okay, so here it is. Are you ready, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so the question. When to build our own auth system and when to use external service such as Auth0?
Very good. Good question.
Right.
So, typically, when you're creating a website or a mobile application, to do like things like what was it mentioned, authentication, create a logon box, do a little bit of authorization. It's not that hard. You can create your own database. You can code a lot of that. But think about when your application starts to scale, and you want to go and take on the world. You've got to take into account not just authorization, authentication. They're pretty simple things to do. You want to think about privacy, how you're going to protect your customers' data. You've got to think about security. Do you have enough skills in-house to create a platform that can protect from all those sophisticated bot attacks and other kinds of attacks? There's a lot of complexity in doing all that. The idea being, if you use a SaaS or offering like this, you basically outsource that to experts. That's global scale. It's already been hardened, and you can focus on creating differentiated digital services on your application. That's probably where you want to focus your developer time. Make sense?
So that totally makes sense. So the Auth0 here is trying to minimize the friction for providing seamless integration in terms of identity, and also to minimize the complexities that sometimes when we try to build our first application and the user management or identity system, we were not really aware of it. Right.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are the common pitfalls that the developers usually do?
Can I just show you? Let me show you a couple of the common mistakes, or no, common challenges and
The
things
common
that
challenges.
you can overlook. So going back to my fictional website, I've got a very simple one here, just to highlight some of the things you need to think about when you're building your website or anything that's going to go out to consumers at scale. So I click on sign on, and you want to log in, and then you provide a username and password or email address and password. But you often like for B2C, business to consumer, often a social could be a way of minimizing friction. Your goal should be to allow your customers to get access to their things they want without too many questions. And check it out. This is a very, gives you a bad example just to illustrate something that happens is when you're asked to register, you collect or ask for too much information. Again, pushing customers away. The idea is make it really frictionless. Go for social or passwordless type of login experiences. Don't ask for too much. You can gather that progressively. It's called progressive profiling. So there's some of the common ones. And then defending against the ever-evolving threats. Really, you really can't do that simply on your own. Remember that as a SaaS, we've got 16,000 customers on this platform. Hundreds of thousands of applications being protected. We see logins from everywhere. We see patterns, and we bring that, that view, that AI machine learning, into all the tenants that use our platform and help them protect against even the latest and greatest attacks. Make sense?
Totally makes sense. That's super clear answer. I hope it helps everyone having a doubt on that matter that they want to build on their own. So please do consider Auth0 first before you build your own IDP system. All right. Okay, so Jim, you show us the Auth0 dashboard and the wizard on how to get started, and share some context on the reasons or rationale behind using Auth0 as IDP. And for our fellow developers building their workloads with AWS, can you show us like a quick demo on how to integrate their AWS workloads with Auth0?
Sure, absolutely, right. So you have to build an application first, and you need to, we see a lot of organizations building websites, but also SaaS, and AWS is a very popular platform for building those cloud native type applications and those big SaaS applications. So integrating is fairly simple. I just showed you, it doesn't matter where your application is, you inject those lines of code. We run on AWS in all the regions that AWS supports. And then after you've done that, you can just get in there and start to customize the user experience. So when it comes to integrating with AWS, it's just ready to go. It's already there. You can spin it up. We work with AWS all the time with organizations that are building that really highly scalable application. And we focus on this thing. And identity is everything we do. Eat, sleep, and dream it, so to speak.
Yeah. And the way we architect our applications, it really define how we integrate these security aspects. And most of developers in Southeast Asia or ASEAN region, they build APIs. We just love APIs. We love APIs so much. And considering that, how can we secure our backend API communication?
Yeah. Just like a login experience, backend is that machine to machine.
Right.
And really, it's quite simple. Let's go into authentication. No, there's a couple of things I need to show you, but let me come into here and go into roles. Okay. And the first step is, you've got an API, but you want to create, do you want to be able to read from that API? Are you going to do a write access? Are you going to do something else? You create a role, just like I'm going to do here. I've got one called travel approver, and you set some permissions. Scopes, essentially, right? So when that machine wants to communicate with that API, it authenticates as a particular username, password, or user, depending on their permissions, the roles that they've been allowed to do. They have certain access to that API, can do certain things. So it's really about, setting up. In summary, it's about setting up. First, you create your API, you protect it with some security, and then you provide scopes that allow a bit of code to do certain things on an API and nothing more.
Right. So how does it work, Jim? Is it or this metadata, like what I see is like approved travel is going to be shared when the application or the API make a call to Auth0 and getting into the token.
Correct. Yeah. So that
Right.
essentially, you sort of almost answered the question, Donny. So, you come in and you've got a certain username, credentials, all right,
Yeah.
a way of authenticating. Then you get in, and then basically what we do is, depending on who you are, we've got what you're allowed to do. We add some claims into the token. When we release it, that token is given to the application, and it says, "I'm Donny. I can do these things, nothing else." Yeah.
Nice. All
Same as a
right.
website. Same as a
All
website.
right.
Yeah.
And then I see there's below the user management, there's a users tab. Does that mean that we can browse all the users that already registered?
That's it. That's how it's done.
Mm,
So I haven't got much in this tenant, but I can add
right.
users to this particular role. And then when Donny comes in, he
Mhm.
gets access, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. All right. So yeah, so moving on to the Q&A segment. Um okay, so we have a question here, Jim.
Okay.
Right. Um the question is, I have already built my own user management system. How can I migrate my existing users to Auth0?
Good question. So that's a very
Right.
common use case, very common.
Yeah.
So a lot of our customers have a great start, and they start to
Hmm.
scale, and they realize, oh, I can't do a lot of this thing on my own. I need some
Hmm.
help. But they've already got an identity provider, or sorry, identity database and an identity data store. And the worst thing you can do, when you have maybe hundreds or even thousands of customers, is to have them have to re-register again. How frustrating would that be? So
Yeah.
let's look at that. Okay. So within Auth0, we can go to the authentication. You can add social. Enterprise connections is more for B2B.
Mhm.
But in terms of answering your question, let's go straight to database now.
Right.
And in here, you create what we call a database connection. In Auth0, a database, it's actually a MongoDB, sorry, not MySQL, a MongoDB.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. We
Yeah.
present it like this, and it's presented by APIs. And
Hmm.
let me pick an existing one called consumer users. This is the one for travel 0. And I'll
Right.
show you a neat little capability. So a database has nice things like define the password policy if you want to use password policies. You can connect to an existing database. All right. So this is how it works. So you'll have that existing database which has identity, usernames, and passwords.
Yes.
You can connect to that using a database script, and it's only a little bit of code. Depending on your database platform, maybe it's MySQL or SQL Server currently, we provide you some code snippets. And the idea here is you can continue to use that existing database. No disruption. I'm suddenly have a new login. It uses the existing database. But you want to migrate that over time. And that brings a nice little feature, my favorite, because it's got a cool name. Let me get in here. And look at this little option. It's called a lazy migration, Donny. That's why I like it,
Right.
because I'm lazy too. And the idea is, here's the picture, okay? So you've got an existing data store. So we start here. Is the user in the MongoDB within Auth0? No, it's in the old database. Great. Is the name and password valid? Yes, it is. Great. Let's continue. Then I store the user and the hash in the Auth0 database. I do a seamless migration.
Yep.
And I let them log in. The user just doesn't even know they're being migrated. And now the next time they go in, they go straight down this chain. Yeah. Yeah? Make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, seamless
Wow.
migration.
This is awesome. I mean, this is super awesome. I mean, this means that if I have my own database and I just need to connect it with Auth0, and probably there's some sort like a mapping of the fields between Auth0 and my system, but
Yeah.
regardless of those mappings, it can actually connect directly into the database.
Correct. And essentially, it's a little bit of code. And you probably
Right.
put an API around your existing database to do login, password reset. You can continue to use that old database. But over
Yeah.
time, you probably want to bring it in. And you want to make sure, when you bring it in, you don't have to do that re-registration. It's very annoying for your customers.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I know that some countries in ASEAN, like they have this own policy, right, to maintain the data on the local country. So this means that I can still have my own database or for my users residing in a specific country, and then we can just use Auth0 as the business logic of implementation on IDP.
Yeah, yeah. And get all the
Super
attack protection and everything else. So that is a concern. I would need to keep my data on premise, or I need to keep it here for compliance or privacy requirements. You can continue to do that and still leverage all those other benefits, right? The
right.
customization of the user experience, branding, and also attack protection and
Yeah.
multi-factor, all that. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't heard about this one, Jim. I think you should write a blog post or should talk more about this.
Lazy
And
migration. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then we have a shout out from Jagadis. Like he said that this is an awesome feature. Yes, it is an awesome feature. Right. This is super cool. Okay. Thank you, Jagadis. And we also have Mastri from Indonesia, a friend of mine. I can translate for you. Super awesome. Right.
Thanks.
Okay. So so I hope that Jim's answers and the demos helps you to understand on how that you can migrate or even retain your existing database and use Auth0. Right. And Jim, I know that you know about this too. That in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia, I could say that around like most of the businesses they are running SaaS model.
Yes.
I personally love SaaS, and it's super challenging and rewarding once we understood the best practices, right? And then you mentioned about this earlier, and one of the most challenging aspect is RBAC or RBAC or role-based access control in
Yes.
multi-tenanted application like SaaS, and providing tenant isolation. Wow, that's quite mouthful. So RBAC, RBAC, multi-tenant, and tenant isolation. Now, my
Yeah.
question is, how do you handle it with Auth0?
Absolutely. So yeah, SaaS is a great way to develop software, no doubt. It
Right.
scales. You can create one instance of the code, and everyone can use it. You create tenants, but you've got to make sure that cross-tenant leakage or noisy neighbor scenarios, you've got to protect against all that. And identity becomes an extra level of complexity. All right. So I'll show you how we can do that with Auth0. One way is because these tenants, you can create as many tenants as you like. You can create one tenant per tenant in your SaaS, but you don't want to do that. We have a capability called organizations, and I'll
Oh,
quickly demonstrate what that looks like by going into my B2B SaaS tenant. So let me just pop up my B2B, not B2C. So now I'm creating a cool new SaaS. It's going to be go global. Everyone's going to jump on it, right? And in here, I just want to show you some of the capabilities around organizations. So here we go. You click on organizations, okay? And in here, this is for let's say you want to become a real estate agent. You don't want to create your own real estate website. They provide a real estate platform for advertising. And I've got 3 customers I've managed to launch and get Acme Realty. These are made up, of course. My Casa, Sukasa, Your Place Rentals, all right? So these are 3 separate businesses that are using this particular Auth0 tenant and the organizations feature. So what happens here is, as a developer of this particular SaaS, one of the first things to do is to define some roles. Okay, so in here, remember, same as the API, but the idea here is for this particular application, I'm going to create an owner role, the owner of this particular tenant. So the key user, a property administrator, someone that manages properties, adds properties, and I'll show you what that looks like, and a property manager, right? So I'll create 3 roles, and again, a role, what is a role? It's just a bit of it has a bunch of permissions. A property manager can create, delete, read, these are the scopes, okay? So when I log in and I get that token, it's got these scopes, and then it defines what I can do in that particular tenant or SaaS. So that's under the hood. How you do the RBAC, very similar. And then we go into this particular tenant, And in this tenant has, different types of connections. You can control all the branding. So obviously you'll be dealing with
Nice.
different customers. So you can just come in here, change the logos, so change the colors, make it unique. You can add different types of social connections. Maybe you're launching in Indonesia and a big social provider. You want to use not Google, a local one there, and maybe in India you want to use something else. You might want to do different types of MFA. All right, you want to allow the business that's your customer to do whatever they want, but leverage the platform. Okay, so when I come in here, let me show you what it looks like. So all the identity is handled here. Here's the members. Okay, it's got its own database in Okta, right? So when I go to databases, remember databases, I only had one, authentication. Here, I've got one for each tenant. So they're all segregated in their own MongoDB, different password policies if you want to do it like that. So the end result is when I go into property 0, okay, let me just click that, launch the website. Oops, not that one. Let me go back into the portal. It's this one here. Here it is. Click the right button. Okay, this is the fictional application. You can quickly sign up as a new, create a new tenant automatically if that's the way you want to do it. So a user can log in and maybe play with it for a while.
Yeah.
I've already created Acme Realty, so let me sign in. All right, it says enter your organization. You can go straight to Acme Realty, but in this case, it's going to ask for my business name. And because I can't type very well, I'm just going to cut and paste it. It's basically this particular organization, okay, or tenant. Control C that, pop back in. Oops, the wrong one. I've got too many screens. That's what happens when you have too many screens. We don't need you anymore. Let me close a bit. Otherwise, I get lost. I have got lost.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here it is. Continue. Okay, so now I'm at Acme Realty, and you can take your customers straight to this. Notice here, you can brand all that. I've got the owner is Julian. I'm choosing to use a password, or you could do passwordless or something else, or biometric. Okay, or I can use social. Use a social, but I want to log in as Julian today. Okay, now I'm the owner. Okay, and I'm almost there. I just want to show you what the end user experience might look like. I've logged in. I've authenticated. Okay, I've got my token back. It puts that little role owner.
Nice. Yeah.
And all it does here is allow me to control the branding of my particular tenant. Okay, you can just do something like that. And all that does is call back into the API. It changes the complete logon experience, or I can add and invite users, property administrators and managers. And that's only because, as Julian, I got that token back which says I'm an owner. Okay, that's that rollback scenario. Hope that all makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is amazing. So I love how easy it is to build a multi-tenant applications. I mean, on identity side with the Auth0, because I can see that we can customize everything on the dashboard. We can add the users, and then we can also define the roles as well. But not only that, we can also provide personalization for each of the organization or each for the users.
Correct. Oh no, for each organization, right?
For each of the organization.
These are all three different businesses. They just happen to be doing the same thing, but they use your B2B SaaS platform. All right.
Right.
But you do want to provide each organization to have some control over look and feel to be able to invite members, but you don't want to be logging in to Auth0. They're going to be doing that by the organization's API, all right, based on who they are. Yeah. So all this, you probably wouldn't provide each of these businesses access to the Auth0 tenant just through APIs to their organization and nothing else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's another question. Can we use custom domain with Auth0?
Yes, is the answer. Quite simply.
Right. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, you have full control.
Right.
Full control.
Full control.
You don't have to see only your own branding, even in the organization level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, related to the organizations, can we have like each custom domain for each organization?
Yes, you can. You can
Okay,
do that.
so that's
Yeah,
super flexible.
yeah, it's really
Right.
flexible. And the idea is, from say Acme Realty's customers, they want to
Mm,
be thinking that they're dealing with Acme Realty. It's not a. They shouldn't matter if it's part of a tenant of a SaaS. It should
right.
appear as Acme Realty's web application. It should look like what they want it to look. Have the right domain. Yeah, it shouldn't be. It should be a
Yeah.
unique experience for each of these businesses that you support.
Okay, so and how about FGA, Jim? The fine grained
Yeah.
authentication.
So coarse grained is what I've shown you today, right?
Yeah.
But what we're seeing a lot, particularly in financial services and other industries,
Mm,
insurance, etc., is the ability to really, have really complicated access. Think of docs. You might use Google Docs. I don't know what you use, but
yep.
that Google Doc can be created and shared only in read write to 5 users, and it's quite complicated to control that sort of authorization or the authorization piece. So what we're doing is we've released a open source product called
Mm,
OpenFGA,
mm,
and a lot of our customers are trialing it for that situation where they want to be really, really complicated sort of scenarios and interconnections and lots of crazy logic that's really, really hard to do. So worth checking out. It's an open source project. You can contribute to it. You can use it and play with it for free. Give us some
right. I'm
feedback.
going. Yeah, I just found the link and I'm going to show it to everyone here. I
Great.
believe this is the blog post. You can
Yeah.
for everyone who wants to. I mean, I know that you cannot copy and paste the link. You can just type Auth0 open FGA, and hopefully they will going to present you this page. So yeah, that's amazing.
Great.
Right. Okay, so that is awesome. We're almost at the end of the session, and as mentioned, here's the survey link for all of you. And let us know what you think about Auth0, and if there's any kind of features that you want to add or want to request or particular use cases, you can just share with us on this feedback form. I will leave it here so you can access the survey. Right. Okay. So while we're waiting for questions, Jim, um, I know that you already show us how to get started with Auth0, but if there's is there any kind of like a code samples for the developers who want to try the hands-on
Yeah,
building with Auth0?
absolutely. We have the GitHub repository, which I think we can share. Absolutely. It's open, it's
Right.
free. It's just part of the platform. So, for example, going back to where I started today, just to remind us, if I go and create a brand new application for fun, and I go and hit the quick start, you pick your language of choice, but you don't have to. You just go React. And if I
Right.
go view on GitHub, here's the sample. So you can create a brand new app, integrate it, start to play around, customize the UX, and the other key thing before we go, I kind of wanted to show this quickly, is down here in security, because user experience is
Right.
incredibly important, but security
Yep.
is too. You should probably want to check out some of the multi-factor options to add
All
that
right.
level of protection. But also, these are the attack protection capabilities. So bot protection, credential
Oh,
stuffing, suspicious IP throttling, brute force protection. These are all built into the platform and offered out to all our customers. And we're seeing billions of logins, which allows us to be, really, really smart
right.
in how we protect. So sometimes we throw a captcha if we see something.
Yep.
We don't want to deny access, or we do want to deny access. This little capability is pretty powerful to keep you secure.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. And James, as for closing remarks, would you share some tips or advices for developers out there to get started with Auth0?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do if you're building your own website or new crazy great online digital service, focus on the things that count, right? A lot of this will take a long time to build. It's complicated. There's security implications. There's UX experience, and the great thing about Auth0 is that you can spin it up, play with it, try it. So I really recommend that you play, try, test it out. You'll see how easy it is. I'm not making this up. It's really quite easy to get going and help you move faster. So my advice is spin up an Auth0 tenant, have a play, get to know the product. And if you get stuck, give us a buzz and we can come and help you. We could do all sorts of things like help you with your proof of concepts, do custom demos around capabilities. I've just very lightly touched things today. So we're very happy to help and help you along your journey.
That's amazing. Jim, thank you so much for being here and give some insights about Auth0 and how we can implement security for our application. And for all of you, don't forget to complete the feedback form. The first 5 users completed the feedback are entitled to get $25 AWS credit codes. So I will going to leave it here. Jim, once again, thank you so much. And everyone, of all the viewers, thank you for tuning in. I'm Donny, and keep on building, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.